I've been directing for over 30 years. I have a couple of, I guess, notable pilots. Mostly my work is in pilots and movie of the weeks for cable. I guess most notably would be the China Beach pilot, A-Team pilot, and ER pilot. I've done about 25 pilots and about 14 of them have gone on the air.
Streets of Fire, Hunt for Red October, Die Hard, The Predator. Rod and I go back 35 years. We used to work together. I was an assistant director back then.
One of our professors here, Tom Zanovi, always says, I've never been asked if I'm good. I've only been asked if I'm fast. Living in TV, especially as a cinematographer or as a gaffer or whatever, you need to be quick and you need to be fast because you're shooting a 45-minute show in 7 days.
I don't think that pilots will ever go away. I think it's really important. It's important to be able to know if the casts work before it goes on the air. Because if you go in 13 on the air, you're stuck with that cast and you have to make a change in the middle. It's very tough. This is a sales tool and it should always remain that way. And that's what a pilot is. How do you sell it to the public, and how do you sell it to the network saying this works, this is what we want, and any changes you can have time to do it before you go on the air. I think it's a very, very sound process.
Pilots are simply a gateway into a series. Why one gets made, one doesn't get made, why one network likes one thing and next year will like something else, I have no idea. I've spent my life making the stuff, not trying to second guess why they make their stuff.
TV's an up and growing medium for stories, and it's accepted at the same level as feature films. You know, you have Breaking Bad and you have Mad Men and you have these other single camera shows which have Game of Thrones, which have all become exceptionally popular and exceptionally relevant, but also really well made. They're not just typical TV. And so I think in that realm, it's a growing world that's out there.
We live in procedural worlds in pilots, and for networks in particular. And they can only go just so far because they have FCC rulings that they have to be very careful of. And they're pushing it as far as they possibly can in order to compete. But still, that's the place to be as far as commercials are concerned, because that has more viewers than any other A&E. It doesn't really matter. FX maybe a little bit, but not a lot. In the competitive world, those do really well in their worlds and where they expect to be able to make their money and how they're going to make their commercial thing. And also, commercials are kind of breaking away because it's fragmented. The footprint of distribution is so high. I mean, it's so wide now. You got people who are doing digital, first-time network stuff, internet stuff. I mean, it's gigantic. But pilots will always exist. They exist in a couple of forms. One is called the story, and one is called the premise. Some of the pilots start right in the middle of something. They're already in progress. The other pilots, the one where we'll start from the start of the thing, where they are, where they're doing, then you have the stories follow after that. When we designed the class was a 33-week class basically on television production from start to finish, nuts and bolts. We brought in friends of mine who are professionals. We talked about how they actually work day in and day out. And then we found and searched for scripts through the UCLA writing program. And two writers came up with this particular script, and we had certain kind of parameters. One is that we needed to try to keep it in the campus, just from a production standpoint. But also it had a thriller aspect of it, which I thought was much more challenging, rather than the two people talking in a room against a wall. And then we did exercises during the winter time for them to try to get up to speed on an episodic speed. We went to look at location scouting, all the casting. We had over 2,000 applicants for the role, so we went through a whole lot of casting. And then location scouting and production meetings, storyboards and schedules for the producers and budgets for the producers. I mean, we really gave them a A to Z kind of instruction.
We got this class with Rod and Bo, and they started telling us that we were going to do a project from the start to the finish. And so, of course, I was really excited. I didn't have a lot of experience on big projects. For me, it was the first time I was shooting in some stages with actual sets.
My favorite moment is actually starting to make the pilot, because everybody took what they learned and applied it. We shot 3 days a week. Rod and I were there every day while they shot. We had posts going on, and we had shooting going on, and we had all the students helping each other to make their pilot and to go through their post period together.
When you make your shorts, you don't have these hard deadlines. But with this project, you were held accountable. There was given a deadline. You have to turn in your cut by this date. And if you don't, like there was not really a if you don't, like you have to. So there was choices. You have to make quick decisions. And although you're making quick decisions, it has to be great. The way we divided the whole pilot, it's into the 5 different acts, and each act break it would be the commercial break. If I'm directing my own short, my own piece, I'm the one that has to recruit a production designer. I have to recruit a producer. And that could be tough if you're trying to get students to work because, they have their own curriculum. But because this was part of our class, it brought production designers, costume designers, producers, cinematographers, writers, and that's how it is in the real world.
I really liked seeing the whole process. I'd never seen dailies before, and I thought that was really cool to sit in on the classes and see the directors go through the dailies. And then see just the process from going from the dailies to the rough cut to the final cut.
It was really helpful hearing the criticism from the part of Rudik and Rod saying, no, you should have a little less dance music in this part or a little more in this part. The crescendo should be more towards this part, or you should have less the crescendo in this part. Very interesting and very educational.
I only worked on short films. When you have like 40 people thinking about how a pilot is going to look, it's hard to reach a consensus, but we talked about what we wanted to do, and little by little we started to agree on some points, and we finally end up coming with the look of the pilot.
I think for me it was an interesting chance to kind of expand my skills and tools and work in a world that's quicker and faster but still has these same standards of storytelling and quality, and in addition become more versed in that world and hopefully use that on my way out.
I think it's a combination of a lot of different elements. One is having a fairly successful executive producer, writer, creator. When I started, there were many of those. At that time, Steve Bochco, and there was John Sagert Young, and when they were doing their work, people really paid attention to it. If that cast is not working, the people start to search the channels. It's just the way it happens. When you have an engaging cast like ER in particular, it's not difficult to understand that they went 15 years. But we gave, I think, every student a really good taste of what it's like when you step out of this university and walk across to your career. I have always felt that a lot of people are really not truly prepared for my work, and oftentimes get run over by a truck and a roadkill. But this was really an inspiration to them, I think. This really gives them a great idea about what they're going to be doing, and they have a better idea of how they might do it.